Well, welcome everybody, and I'm so glad you decided to join us. I'm glad you were able to find us here. This is our flagship episode. My name's Stuart Smith. I'm a 25-year veteran of investor relations, corporate communications. Before that, I was an accountant in Southern California, and before that, I was a musician in Southern California. So I've got a background in business arts as well as my bachelor's of science in accounting. I'm joined today by Kevin Gray. He is the CEO of Supermassive Media. He too has deep roots in the music industry, the entertainment industry, and the micro cap and small cap stock space. And we are so glad to have our partner in this show with us, Peter Szafranski. He is not only the CEO of All Penny Stocks, but he is the true North American in this, in the sense that he is our brother from across the northern border, Canadian Peter Szafranski. So, Peter, I'm going to kick it to you first because, wow, this episode couldn't come at a better time. We had a lot of bad blood between our two countries last week, and I was here for it. I loved it. TikTok made hockey exciting again. I got to give TikTok its kudos. Kachuk brothers and their trash talk was epic. I know that there's another reason that we're going to get into that's causing a lot of Canadian pride, and that's the business side of things, and we'll touch on that in just a second. But, Peter, just tell what it was like for the Canadian side of things. Were you guys as into this as we were here in the States, this Four Nations hockey tournament that Canada took from the U.S.?
Oh yeah. Oh, it was big, Stuart. Thanks for having me, by the way. It was big. Yeah, it's all everyone was talking about here. And like you said, it was a sense of pride. It wasn't necessarily just a big game. It was like the game. It was almost like whoever wins will take everything, in this whole battle when it comes to, political battle, business battle. It was big. It was big and exciting. And, you could see the rawness of all the fighting and just the anger, like it's riled up Canadians. I can speak only from the Canadian standpoint. It's riled us up quite a bit. There's so much more Canadian pride that I've really never seen before. It's great to see. However, it's sad also because there's a reason why there's so much Canadian pride. It's because there is a brewing battle with honestly our best friend and our best trading partner, the America. So, it's a tough one, but yeah, going back to the hockey, it was fantastic to watch and great games.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I don't give a shit about hockey, but I was so here for that. Like I said, Kevin, you're a big hockey fan.
I am. I don't know. We're probably going to get some horrible comments for this. I am so sorry, Stuart, but I am a Sabres fan. I'm a Sabres man. Go Sabres, But anyway, I loved it. It was a fantastic game. Seeing that first meeting of Canada and the U.S. where the fight broke out within a first few seconds, and that crowd was electric. It was amazing. And then I don't know. I like McDavid. I'm kind of an Oilers fan too. So for him to get the game winner for Canada, bittersweet moment for me being here down in the States. But you know what? It was worth it. I had a hell of a time. It was a great time for me.
Bittersweet moment for me as well. As the non-hockey fan, I was there for 3 periods, and then I said I'm out and figured the U.S. would take it, but sort of felt the winds were changing.
We got to get you to a game. That's how you become a hockey fan. Get into a game and actually getting on the ice, smacking some plexi. That's the way you got to do it. So we'll
got
get
it
you
right here in
Cedar
Park, right here in Texas, outside of Austin. We have the farm team for
Come to
the
LA.
Dallas
We got
Stars.
the Kings here, man. It's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's talk about what Peter foreshadowed just a moment ago. Let's get into the business side of things. Typically people know me. I'm not really a political guy. I like to focus on the business side. But Peter, you had a great quote in our pre-production for this show. It's hard to avoid business and politics when they're so intertwined at this time. So we're talking about, I'm happy that we have a representative from Canada here to give us, that's what's really stirring up this pride. You and I were talking about this before the show. Not only are the tariffs a threat, but they're actually escalating, as we were talking about right before recording. Front page on Yahoo Finance, front page on CNBC. Let's spend a quick moment on this because I know Kevin's got a take on, one of his stock picks on why some of the moves by our government here in the States is actually making the stock that he's going to talk about today look great. But the tariffs, what it's doing in Canada, and just that kind of sense of anxiety going on around this.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of sense of anxiety. I mean, and I can obviously speak to my particular business, but I'll just speak to in general a business in Canada. It's quieted down significantly. There's so much uncertainty right now, and it's no surprise. I mean, when you have a situation where tariffs are coming, maybe they're not coming. Oh, well, maybe we'll negotiate something, and they're off the table. It's very hard to run a business or even just know what's going on with your job when you don't know what's going to happen next week, next month, etc. So yeah, it's a wait and see period for at least on the Canadian side, because unfortunately we're the smaller of the two countries. And so like it or not, we're going to be hit harder than you guys with any kind of trade wars. So
Well, I
it
think you
is,
guys are
it
going to
is
get hit harder, but I
concerning.
think the people that it's going to affect in the United States are going to get hit a lot quicker. We saw what Doug Ford was saying that they're going to shut down power access for the northern United States countries. Again, I know that we're not trying to get too political here, but trade wars never help the consumer and they never help the investor. Somebody's making money. Typically, it's the people that are sitting at those large hedge funds, though, and then obviously our audience is more about the independent and individual investor and things like that. It's weird that this is all happening, though. I mean, I'm looking at what Trump said here, New York Times article that just came out earlier today. Trump says Canada and Mexico tariffs will go into effect next week. But now, according to a post on Truth Social, there's an additional 10% on top of China. And so, I mean, it's just, it keeps escalating and escalating, like you're saying. And it's like, you're saying that, yeah, it's going to affect Canada because you're smaller. But I mean, let's be honest here. Who wins in a trade war?
Well, and it's reshaping everything. So, I mean, he's also said he's going to do 25 on the EU. And so now you're already getting Canadians, companies and the government talking to Mexicans in this case and Europeans saying, hey, let's do more trade. So it's reworking everything. I mean, going to the grocery store just in the last week, I've seen things I've never seen before. For one, almost every product here has a big Canadian logo on it right now. I've never seen that before. So they're really making it known what's Canadian, what's not Canadian. And people are looking. Everyone's checking, oh, where's this made? And if there's two side-by-side products, the American ones are sitting on the shelves. The Canadian ones are going off the shelves. It's incredible to watch how that sense of pride and that we're not going to, even though we're smaller, we're not going to give up it's interesting. It's sad, but interesting how things have escalated to this level. So yeah, and walking over, I'm hearing this whole spiel on the radio, the announcer in the grocery store saying, we look for Canadian products and we try to find Canadian products first, and you'll find the logos. Like, it's just everything's changing, and it's
Yeah, and I get
so
that
fast.
change. I understand that. And you are our Canadian product here today, Peter. So let's move on to the micro of this. That's the macro. So the micro of this, you are a technical chartist, Peter, and Kevin and I come from quite a bit different angle, each of us different from each other as well. But as a technical chartist, Peter, you've brought us 3 companies to look at today that I want people to grab their pen and paper now. Go ahead, Peter. Talk to us about your companies that you had jump out to you, and what was the software or the service that you offer that brought those to your attention?
Yeah, so with allpennystocks.com, we have a new premium offering. It's a data analytics tool called By the Numbers, and it finds basically actionable trade alerts every single day. For North American stocks, you can fine tune your results based on price, exchange, and country. So, I just did a simple search on that, and I found a few companies that I found really interesting. Again, all of them from a technical perspective. So we have Westbridge Renewable Energy. They are duly listed, but in Canada, they're on the TSX Venture WEB. Let's see. On the US side, they are symbol WEGYF. This one's interesting. This one has a great looking chart. It's basically a long-term symmetrical triangle that began in 2023. It's looking like it's ready to rip to the upside. So I would definitely watch that in the coming weeks.
Do you have an idea of an entry point on that one, Peter? Is it now? Where's
It
the
would
price right
be,
now?
yeah, it would be basically now. And you know what? It's around 90 cents or so at last check. this can go back up to 130, I would say, pretty easily. Again, weeks, maybe even a few months, but that's some significant upside for a few month time period. I like also Ribbon Communications. That's on the NASDAQ, RBBN. And that has basically a recent technical breakout the last few weeks or so. I think you could see the stock continue its uptrend on that.
This is one that would make me a little fearful to get into. And so maybe having the tech guy here to explain this one might put my fears at ease. That looks like the run's done. So explain to me why you're saying that one has potential to go up.
Of course. So if you look at it from a multi-year perspective, it broke out of a basically a resistance level back in early 2023. That resistance level was, we'll call it around 450 or so. So it broke out, 2 months, maybe 3 months ago, ran as high as 538. So in technical analysis, a lot of times when companies break out, they like to, I don't know, what I call it, kiss the old resistance, which is now support, one last time, and then take off. So it's doing exactly that. It ran to 538. It's pulled back significantly, and it is basically touched that 450-ish level that was old resistance, which is now support, and it's starting to curl back up. I think it can head back up to 538 or so, which was its recent high, and then eventually head even higher into the potentially into the $6 range. So that one's interesting. Again, this one is also a multi-month trade, but one to definitely watch. So that hopefully answers your question on that one.
Before we move on from that one, Peter, I will say, Kevin, one thing that might help you is that did just get $1.50 for a stock this price, $1.50 price target bump. So the buy now, the price target is at $7.50. And there is some third-party due diligence on this. If you pull this company up on the press wire, Simply Wall Street actually had it listed under the U.S. penny stocks under $800 million market cap. It listed these guys, I think, as number 2. So there is some belief in this company out there, but there is questions around this company as well. But Peter, I know you have a third stock. Go ahead.
Yeah, and just to preface that, again, I'm looking strictly from a technical perspective. If there is some fundamentals that are not quite as sexy, then fair enough. But strictly from a technical, it does look like it's got a little bit more room to the upside.
I think it's got fundamentals as well. I mean, if you've got analysts doing that, so it's got both sides of it. All right, so Peter, you've got a third one for us as well.
That's right. Third one is Home Run Resources, HMR, on the TSX Venture. It is also traded on the OTC. Symbol is HM. This one's interesting as well. This one's showing a falling wedge pattern that began in around mid-2024. Looks like it's breaking to the upside. So I would definitely look at that one as well. I'm just going to pull HMR up for you guys so I can give you a little bit of a better run. But that was kind of my third one that I really liked. This one, honestly, I can easily see it going back up to that 170, 180 level in the coming months. So very interesting play. If you look at it from a multi-year perspective, it's in a massive uptrend. I mean, going back to November 2022, it was 4 cents. I mean, we're at 130 now. So this one's going back up.
It's good plays, and they're affordable plays. I'm going to kick it to Kevin here in just a second because he's got a big boy to talk about. And it's interesting. We talked about some of the administrative moves, some of the moves by the administration we have here, the Trump administration and the tariffs. But there's another program, Kevin, the DEI, all the shaking of the tree there as well. So let's talk a little bit about what you're bringing to the table for us today, Kevin.
Sure. I don't know if I've mentioned this on previous shows or anything like that, but I love consumer goods. When it comes to like brands and things like that, I love consumer goods. And so when 2020 happened, I was buying that dip on Abbott Labs, the formula company that was going through the shortage problems. And so those are some of the opportunities that I try to look for, is when the market has pulled back on one of these blue chips and it allows you to get in at a really sweet entry on something that you might not be thinking about, or something that's really off to the left side and you're just not thinking at all. Looking specifically at Target, ticker symbol TGT, and I know we just went through a series of small caps here. This one obviously is not a small cap. Target has been around for years and years and years, but with recent rollbacks of the DEI policies in the Trump administration, which is only really happening at a federal level, other companies are starting to follow suit. And because of that, it's launched this consumer boycott. And a lot of people, they don't really let's be real here. Most consumer boycotts, they're not that effective. The stock prices keep going. The companies are still profitable. Target has actually seen a pretty significant pullback. The last I checked, and I'll pull up the chart right here and put it on the screen. Last time I checked Target's chart, they had a pullback of about $20 on the chart here, and it's still kind of dropping even more. From when these policies started falling out, they were sitting at a high of $143, now sitting at $123, and tomorrow is supposed to be the biggest day of the boycott. We're filming this here on the 27th of February. It will be out after the 28th, but tomorrow is supposed to be the day without necessities. And so it's the biggest day of the consumer boycott facing retailers like Target. Target has rolled back into some of their DEI policies and kind of reinstated them after the substantial consumer pullback. But personally, I look at Target, I don't see them, and it's weird to say this with the tech guy on the call here, but I look at Target as a dividend play. And if you are not familiar with dividend plays or don't know a good one to get into, I love the Target dividend play. I mean, I'm married. My wife likes Target. And so what I do is I collect Target stock. I get those dividends and I put those dividends on a Target gift card and then hand it right back their circular economy situation. And so I personally think, I can't say that this is a good entry for you personally, but I'm scooping up as much of this dip as I can. I know Target is a strong brand. They're going to bounce back, in my personal opinion here. But it's because of these Trump policies. It's these tariffs, these DEIs, all of this stuff that's happening, that this shakeup in Washington, we're seeing it affect multiple countries, but there are still opportunities for us to make money during down economies. And we have said that on the show before, but that's one that I wanted to bring to the table. Definitely not a small cap, but a big boy that might be good for getting into.
Yeah, I love that though. I think that was great. And I think we need to do a little recap to start the next show as well. We'll bring up these companies. We've got Westbridge Renewable Energy Corp, Ribbon Communications Incorporated, Homegrown Resources Incorporated. All of those are small and micro caps. Then we've got the big cap, the mid cap. Well, actually, it's a big boy, Target. And then I have one quite a bit lower that I got into. It's high, I guess. I'm right around $27. I was going to talk about a different stock today, but since we are in earnings season, since we saw NVIDIA yesterday with great numbers, sort of, everybody kind of looked at their futures and said, okay, we're not loving what you're saying, what your projections are for fourth quarter. And so NVIDIA and the NASDAQ are tanking today as a dateline, February 27th. But there's another company reporting today, and that's Rocket Labs, RKLB. Kevin, you're familiar with our friend there at Space, who is Space Investor on X, and I was on their show speaking about one of our clients, Cooler Technology Group, and they were all bullish on Rocket Lab, and it was hard not to drink the Kool-Aid on that call. So I'm hoping that, we see some good things here out of Rocket Lab, because really, and maybe Peter, one thing we could ask you to do as our technical chartist is take a look at Target, take a look at Rocket Lab. Fundamentally speaking, this company's got a lot of contracts. And so it's difficult, other than the headwinds that it's facing. I mean, right now, look, 335 points for the NASDAQ were down, and the stock's down 52 cents, which is about 2.5%. But Rocket Lab is one that I've gotten into because, again, it's got disciples, I'll put it that, on social media. Just like our client, Cooler Technology Group, ticker symbol KUR, they have disciples. And so it's hard not to, when you get beat over the head with so many facts and contracts and here's what we've got, and here's what they've got, and their stock price is X million dollars, and ours is way down here. We've got to overtake them. So I don't have a big position, but Rocket Lab's one I want you to take a look at because their earnings come out today, 5 p.m. Eastern. Peter, so before we wrap up this episode, Kevin and I both gave you a couple of tickers. You got Target from Kevin, ticker symbol TGT. You got Rocket Labs from me, RKLB. You're our technical chartist. What do those numbers look like?
Sure. Well, let me take a quick peek. I got Rocket Lab up on my screen here. In terms of Rocket Lab, I mean, obviously this is one of those high flyers from, let's say, beginning mid 2024. This thing just, it took off like a rocket, basically. So, these are tough ones because momentum plays are being unwound right now, basically. So it has broken a major support around $24 from the looks of things. So that's clearly way past it. Right now, guys, you got support around, let's call it 19 and even 16, 17. So I'll be honest, I wouldn't be jumping into Rocket Labs because it looks a little dangerous right here. Not to say that's not a great stock. It's just got a little ahead of itself, and a better entry might be closer to that 16 to 17 spot, but maybe even 19, depending on how things go.
So if you were going to average cost down, sorry to jump in there. If you were going to average cost down, would you actually wait all the way to 16, 17? Or if you're like myself and you're at $24, would you pick up a little bit at 20, then pick up a little bit more at 18? How would you do that?
Yeah, you could do a little bit here and there. You're gonna have to watch like a hawk if you're really active in it. But I would not jump in yet. But probably around 19, I'd start nibbling. But around 16, 17, I would start coming back in on this one for Rocket Lab. Now, Target's looking a little uglier. I hate to say it, and you know, I understand Kevin's perspective of you know, it might be overdone with the DI. You know, I come back to Bud Light. I mean, that was rough. That was rough for that company. So, you know, consumer backlash could be painful, and Target seems to be that poster child right now for consumer backlash. So that's just the, you know, the fundamentals, so to speak. But in terms of the technicals, ugly. So, you know, you've got a massive support right around where it's trading at. Call it the 120, 125 range. And it's just looking like it's going to break through it. I hate to say it. And if it breaks through this support, I mean, easily 115, if not more, on the downside. So I would not be entering Target as well. Whereas Rocky Labs was, you know, just a little bit overbought and kind of coming down from grace. This one's just ugly. This one's just ugly right now. This is my perspective, and again, it's only
Don't apologize,
technical.
Peter. What you're trying to say,
don't worry about it.
Yeah, what you're trying to say is Kevin's pick is hot trash, and mine's just mild trash. Mine's just mid-temp trash.
I'm reading what the charts say. So the charts are saying it's mild trash, and so hey, I'm sorry guys. That's just that's just what they're saying. You know, I wish I'm wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, but that's my opinion on this.
Oh yeah, I've been scooping up Target since 2020 when it was back in this range of like 120, and so just playing those dips. I personally, I hear what you're saying. I don't know. I've always looked. It's hard to say this with a consumer goods company, but I've always looked, and you're probably gonna hate me for this, tech over technicals. I always look at who the brand is, who the technology is, and that's why this has been such an enlightening call having you here, because I'm learning a lot about. Apparently, I pick garbage as my stock.
Well, listen, Kevin. Someone's gonna be right and someone's gonna be wrong. Let's see who it is, right?
I set a watch list alert for Rocket Labs at $16. So we'll see if I can get in on that one.
Sounds good.
So hey, this is our first show. Kevin, thank you so much. Peter, thank you so much. I love the take from both of you. Kevin, I love the circular economy reference when you talk about putting it back and making the wife happy. And Peter, we love looking at your charts. We love having you here. Let's do it again soon, guys.
Sounds great. Yeah, no, always a pleasure.
Thanks, guys.
All right, for Kevin and Peter, this is Stuart Smith saying thanks so much for tuning in.